Everyone needs a safe place to go when times are difficult. For me, that safe place, at least in my mind, is the Little Red Cabin. In Norway, about 45 miles northwest of Oslo, there is a small town named Eidsvoll. In 1989, when I was 8 years old, my mom, younger sister, and I moved there. We moved into a little red cabin that was built by my mom's grandparents during World War II because her family needed a place to flee when the Nazis invaded Norway. It was situated in the woods in a small community, sheltered away from any major cities and far enough away from the capital city of Oslo to be in any immediate danger during the war. It was in this safe haven that we made a home. It was fitting that my mom's grandparents used it as a place for safety, because for me it was the same thing. After my parents separated, our family needed a place to begin again, and this cabin was a safe place we were given. As a child, there was no better place to be than Eidsvoll. We were surrounded by extended family, friends, and a small community that embraced my sister and I as their own. In the afternoons, there was always coffee at our neighbors' houses. I remember the smell of coffee, fresh waffles, and cakes drifting through the evening air. My mom's distant cousins lived next door, a blind couple named Esther and Anish. Anish was an accomplished cross-country skier. He also polished stones into beautiful jewelry and owned his own furniture upholstery business. Anish would take me with him to his furniture shop and teach me how to do what he did. His wife Esther loved my sister and I as her own kids. We often spent the days at their house playing games and making food. Their house had the warmth of love and smelled of fresh bread. On our property was the main cabin, a 2-story home that had electricity but had no running water or bathrooms. Mornings were spent pumping water out of the well and putting it onto our wood-burning stove to heat it for the day. Our bathroom was an outhouse with which my mom had to dig holes in the woods to empty the waste. Baths were taken in large wash tubs that we emptied the hot water into after we heated it up on the stove. Each day was a new adventure. The property also housed a small guest cabin that was used as a playhouse most of the time by my sister and I. But to me, the most magical place of all was the small wood shop that my great-grandfather used. I could spend hours making small figurines, wooden bowls, or really whatever my heart desired. It was a place to be creative and a place I was able to call my own. The woods that surrounded the cabin were a magical place to run around in. The wildflowers were everywhere, and we'd pick them and bring them back to my mom. There were wild blueberries all over, and we had a special picking bucket to collect them in, but more berries ended up all over us than in the tin. Our blue-stained hands and faces were a common sight during blueberry season. We were surrounded by nature, and there was adventure at every turn. We did not live in that cabin for more than a year, and before we knew it, we were moving back to the United States. While I was happy to be back around my dad and his family, I missed the life we had in Eidsvoll. Living was definitely more challenging when you lived in a place that had no indoor plumbing or bathrooms, but it was in those times that we found humor and the ability to grow stronger together as a family. I saw that cabin one more time when I was 17 years old. I went back to visit my mom, aunt, and grandmother. It had been almost 9 years since I had seen it last, but the surroundings were the same. The memories of the wildflowers, the smell of coffee and baking in the evening, and the love that surrounded us was still there. Our neighbor Esther welcomed us back to her house with open arms, and the familiar warmth of the oven baking bread was still present. While so many things had changed in my life, it seemed like time stood still in that little community, and it brought comfort to my heart. My mom's cousin tore down the little red cabin in the year 2000 in order to build a new house on the property. While the house that replaced it may have had all the comforts of a modern home, what will remain in my heart is the little red cabin that was our safe place when I was young and family community that helped raise me. Life changes and you have your ups and downs, but I know that when times get tough, I can remember that safe place, my little red cabin.